What's up, guys, and welcome back to Will Sports Talk. So today, I want to go over 5 coaches that I think are on the hot seat going into the 2023 season. So without being said, let's get to rolling. My number 1 should be number 1 on everybody's list, and that is Florida head coach Billy Napier. Now, Billy Napier, he is 11-14 at Florida. He went 5-7 last year. Florida finished last year on a 5-game losing streak. And this could be Florida's 3rd straight losing season under Napier and 4th overall if they don't get something cooking going into this coming up season. Now, going into this season, Billy Napier, he also lost his running back, Trevor Etienne, through the portal. They lost 2 top corners to the portal as well. They do return their quarterback, Graham Mertz, for the season, who I actually think is a very underrated quarterback. He's not a bad quarterback at all. And going into the year, Florida is going to have a top 10 offensive line going into the year. So the problem for Billy Napier is not recruiting, because the past 2 or 3 years, he's had top 15, top 20 classes these top 2 or 3 years. So the problem with Billy Napier is not necessarily recruiting and the talent on the field, because the roster itself is very, very talented. These kids are very talented. They just cannot produce on the field. In my opinion, this has got to be a quote-unquote prove-it year for Billy Napier. Florida this year, and really next year as well, plays the toughest schedule in the country, especially the back half of this schedule this year. They have to play Georgia at home. They have to go to Texas. They play LSU at home, Ole Miss at home. Then they go to Florida State at the end of the year. Now, just looking at the back half of this schedule, this is the most brutal thing I've seen in a while for one team. Mark my words, Billy Napier will be fired before this season's over. He will be fired before the end of the season. He will not last all year, especially with his schedule if he can't get stuff together. My number 2 is Sam Pittman, Arkansas head coach. Arkansas and Sam Pittman, he is 23-25 at Arkansas. He went 4-8 last year, and that 4-8 record is tied for the program's worst record since 2013. Sam Pittman, he lost his quarterback, KJ Jefferson, and his running back, Raheem Sanders, to the portal. Arkansas, under Sam Pittman, has won only a combined 4 games in 2 years. Arkansas, going into this year, just looking at their schedule, they have to go to Oklahoma State this year. They have conference games against Tennessee, LSU, Ole Miss, Texas, all at home this year. In my opinion, Arkansas has to win at least 2 of those 4 games and finish the season 6-6 or 7-5 if Sam Pittman even wants to think about coming back next year and retaining his job and still being the head coach of the Arkansas Razorbacks. Now, my number 3 and 4, y'all just have to hear me out on my 3 and 4. My number 3 is Dabo Swinney, Clemson head coach. Now, Dabo Swinney, he is 170-43 at Clemson. He went 9-4 last year. He's won 2 national championships at Clemson. But ever since those 2 national championships, he's had more losses the past 3 seasons than he did since the 2015 through the 2020 season. Now, this is just my opinion. In this day and age, I'm convinced Dabo Swinney is not a good coach. His last national title was back in 2018, and then ever since then, he has had 13 losses. Now, my problem with Dabo is he is too old school. Dabo is one of these coaches that believes in recruiting and development. He refuses to use the transfer portal. He refuses to use NIL. And that's not going to work in this day and age. Dabo Swinney, this is not the 1980s anymore. That style would have worked back then because the transfer portal, NIL, was not a thing back then. But in this day and age, that's not going to work. This is a day and age in football where college football is centered around the transfer portal and NIL. And in this day and age, you have all these programs. You're going to sit around and watch all these programs grab all these 4 or 5 upperclassmen, veteran guys out of the portal while you're using your recruit and development strategy. And within using that strategy, you're sitting there waiting on a bunch of freshmen. You got to wait 2 or 3, maybe 4 years for those freshmen to develop, get some playing time, and just get the system up under their belt before you even have a chance to make a run at anything. And then on top of that, another thing, quarterbacks. This is another reason I'm convinced Dabo's not a good coach. The last national championship they won, Trevor Lawrence was their quarterback. Before that, Deshaun Watson was their quarterback. I'm convinced Dabo Swinney cannot win without an elite quarterback. This offense, well, let's go back. They had DJU. Yes, they did okay, but they couldn't go all the way with it. They didn't win a championship. This offense this past season under Cade Klubnik was absolutely horrific. I do not think Dabo Swinney can get it done without an elite quarterback. And I think he has about 2, maybe 3 years to prove me wrong. And I think if he don't get it done, I think he's getting booted out of Clemson. Because at this point, the expectation is Clemson is national championships. But my number 4 is Ohio State head coach Ryan Day. Now, Ryan Day, he is 56-8 at Ohio State. He went 11-2 last year. Now, just like I stated with Clemson, the expectation at Ohio State, number 1, national championships, year in and year out. And then the next most important expectation at Ohio State is to beat your most hated rival, and that is Michigan. And they haven't been able to do any of those the past few years. Michigan has beat Ohio State 3 years in a row, and they have not won a national title since 2015. And their last national title appearance was back in 2020 when they played against Alabama. Now, my opinion for Ryan Day, it's real simple. Ryan Day, he has to show that he can beat Michigan and then he can go out and win a national title. I think this is a prove-it year for Ohio State, because with the talent Ohio State has on this roster this year, they are loaded. They should be one of the favorites to win the national title. And I believe with the talent on this roster, if they do not win a national title this year, you got to put it on Ryan Day. It's Ryan Day's fault. And if he doesn't win a national title and or beat Michigan this year, I'm not saying fire him right then, right there, but he's going to have some major heat on him going into the next season. Now, my number 5 is Mario Cristobal, Miami head coach. Now, Mario Cristobal, he's 12-13 at Miami. He went 7-6 last year. He has 13 losses in 2 seasons. 13 losses in 2 seasons should not be acceptable. Now, going into this year, I think an ACC championship appearance should be the expectations at Miami with the talent level you have coming in. His coaching and decision-making has to get better. You cannot be stupid going back to that Georgia Tech game. You take a knee in that game, you win the ball game. But no, you want to run the ball up the gut, they fumble. Georgia Tech gets the ball, drives down the field, and score. You can't lose ball games like that. You have to use your head a little bit. So, it's very simple for Cristobal. He's got to do 3 things. Be smart. Don't be an idiot. He's got to win the games you're supposed to win. And you've got to at least get to the conference championship. You don't have to win the conference championship. You just got to get there, because let's be honest. You're in the ACC. You're in a very weak conference. Your only competition in the ACC is Florida State. That's it. Maybe Louisville. But I would say the only competition you have is Florida State. So my opinion, this is a prove-it year, and you've got to at least get to the ACC championship game for it to be a successful season and for you to be able to keep your job. Because if you don't, I think this job is going to be under fire. So that's my list. I hope y'all enjoyed it. Let me know if y'all have anybody else on this list who would y'all add if y'all would take anybody off. Let me know. I hope y'all enjoyed the video, and I will see y'all on the next one. Thank you.